Okay. So for my presentation, I decided to create a PowerPoint as opposed to an infographic. And I went with kind of like a techie theme. Since I'm talking about IoT devices, I figured this color scheme would go well um, for computer stuff. So this is my intro page here. So security solutions for IoT. There is a lack of security in IoT devices, and this is a major concern because this is a way for hackers to gain access to our systems through the devices, and we're really just not aware of all the security flaws contained within them. And since IoT devices are expected to double by 2025, this is something that needs to be resolved in order to secure data for and for corporations to secure their assets. There's two ways that we can address the security issues. We can either hold manufacturers accountable to make the devices more secure, or we can leave it up to the consumer to secure their own data. Now, some of the concerns about who might be responsible for securing the devices for the manufacturer, usability versus security. Now, manufacturers just want to create a product that they can bring to market quickly, and they want it to be user-friendly. And when you add additional steps for security purpose, it's going to decrease the user-friendly environment that consumers are accustomed to. So a lot of times they save the security features for the end of production, and it in turn the devices end up not being very secure at all. Also, it's not financially beneficial for them to deal with security. If they added all these features we're going to discuss later, the security would end up being more expensive than the device itself. So it's going to increase the market price for IoT devices. Now, for the consumers, there's really just a lack of awareness going on. We buy these devices and we just trust that they're secure, and oftentimes they're not secure at all. And weak credentials. So consumers might use weak credentials, or they might even just keep the username and password that was in place when they bought the device. And you can actually find these usernames and passwords in the manuals for the device. So it's not okay to not change it. So how do hackers actually gain access to IoT devices? Well, some of the most common vulnerabilities you'll see at the bottom of the pyramid: lack of security controls. For instance, there may be no authentication or passwords. And what that means is anyone that can find the IP address and connect to the device can control it. So the bottom of the pyramid are the most frequent vulnerabilities that are the easiest to exploit, but they are also the easiest to fix. And at the top of the pyramid, you have hardware bugs, and these are the least frequent, hardest to exploit, and also the hardest to fix. So some of the possible solutions to the security issues: for the manufacturer, it would be adding new regulations that they have to follow. And some of these are, they can run always online servers, and these servers will be used for the initial configuration of the device. They can also purchase and install certificates, but these certificates will have to be added to all servers and devices. So every device that they produce will need a certificate. So this is not exactly feasible. And also develop a companion app. And we're pretty used to seeing these anytime you purchase an IoT device like a smart speaker or a Ring. It usually comes with an app. And then regular software updates from their servers. And on the consumer side, we need to raise awareness. Consumers are really not aware that this is a problem. Although in most recent years we're beginning to acknowledge that there's an issue here, but for the most part, people are just trusting that the device is secure when they purchase it. So some of the things that consumers can do, they can perform regular updates. They can also use strong passwords. Make sure to change the username and password from the one given by the manufacturer. Now, for an organization, they can use a segregated network. This isn't really something that we would do at home necessarily, but for a large business that has multiple devices, it may be best to put those devices on a separate network. That way, if there's a security breach, it would be limited to that network and it won't affect the other assets in the business. And lastly, restrict app permissions so that the app is not just randomly collecting data from a cell phone. So I like to compare the two solutions based on cost, functionality, and feasibility. For the manufacturer, it's just not cost effective for them to implement security features into the device. If they were to take into account maintaining the servers and the certificates and apps, the security would cost more than the device itself. And this will in turn increase the prices for the devices for the consumer. And for the consumer, it would be an added expense if they had to handle their own security for the devices by purchasing third-party applications and things like that. So as far as functionality, these added regulations would increase time to market, and it would also decrease the user-friendly environment for the consumer. And for feasibility, manufacturers are just not security experts. They create a product and they just want to sell that product. They're not really concerned with securing our data. So what's the answer to this problem of security in IoT devices? Well, it is a joint effort. You can't just put all the responsibility on the manufacturer, and you can't place it all on the consumer either. If we increase regulations for manufacturers and then also educate consumers on securing their data and the importance of doing so, I think we could have a more secure IoT environment.